These are my last minute detailed UFC Vegas 19 Blaydes versus Lewis predictions, and in these kinds of videos I don't like to go into why I believe someone's going to win. I'm not really going to talk too much about the style matchup or former opponents or who's got the better resume leading in or what the odds are. I'm just going to look into the future with my superior brain and try and tell you guys how I see every single fight on this card playing out. I'm not going to talk about odds. I'm not going to talk about, well, if this guy does this then he wins. I'm just talking about exactly what's going to happen. I'm putting it all on the line, and I'll tell you this, I'm going to start doing these videos for fight nights more often, because the two pay-per-views I've done, I've pooped both of them, and on the fight night I did for Volkov versus Overeem, I was dead on, so now I'm going to do them for every single card moving forward. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. Starting with the early prelim opener, and we're going to race through these because there's a lot of fights on this card. Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vandeira. Jared Vandeira, good opponent, but I feel like Sergey Spivak is going to go out there and get the job done here with his pressure style. He seems to have a really good pace in the heavyweight division that we saw him use against Carlos Felipe, so I see this fight going in the way of Jared Vandeira and Sergey Spivak having a fun first round back and forth. I don't see Jared Vandeira winning a round here. I believe Sergey Spivak will go out there and have the better striking in the first round, sneaking around, landing good shots. Not really anything's going to happen that's crazy in the first round. Maybe Jared Vandeira swings very hard, misses a couple of times. Then in the second round, I feel like we're going to watch Sergey Spivak go out there and put in some work in the grappling, take down Jared Vandeira and spend the round on top of him. Then in the third round, I feel like Jared Vandeira is going to be tired of being taken down against a cage, and Sergey Spivak will reenact his Carlos Felipe fight. However, rather than a 10-8 in the third round, I feel like he will get the finish over Jared Vandeira. I question Jared Vandeira's cardio levels. I feel like Spivak's going to go out there and get the job done in the third round by TKO to ground and pound. Second round, he starts working the grappling once they a little bit slowed down after the first. Jared Vandeira is going to be swinging heavy in the first round. Then Spivak's going to capitalize in the third of a gassed out Vandeira and TKO him quite cleanly. I've got Spivak by third round TKO. Moving on, Amian Zahabi versus Draco Rodriguez. Draco missed weight. I feel like he's going to go out there and get a first round TKO. I know a lot of people see submissions on his record, but he is a very nasty striker, and his boxing's often what sets up a lot of things. He rocked the guy on the Contender Series first, then ended up in a submission once he shot on him. I don't see Amian Zahabi taking those shots. I think Draco Rodriguez is going to go out there. They're going to get straight to work, and Draco's just going to have this much level better of boxing than Amian Zahabi, and he's going to go out there and piece him apart in the first round, and this will be a quick first round finish on the card for Draco Rodriguez. Usually when we see guys miss weight, they get straight into action. It reminds me of Qatar versus Stevens. There's a little bit more emotion coming into this for Amian. I think he's going to go out there, start getting a bit scrappy early, and that's going to be his demise, and Draco Rodriguez is going to land a combination punch finish in the first round to finish things by TKO against Amian Zahabi, and I'll call the combination that lands. I think he's going to land... I think he'll land a slip on the inside of a jab of Amian and catch him over the top, and then follow up with a hook behind it and finish him like that with a nice little two-punch combination off of the slip of a jab. I think Draco Rodriguez gets it done. Moving on, Skelly versus Jamal Emmers. I can see Jamal Emmers just pulling off the old Askarov versus Tim Elliott tactic. If you know, you know, if you've watched that fight. Basically, I feel like Skelly's going to go out there, fail some takedowns in the first round against Jamal Emmers, who's got some nice takedown defense. Jamal Emmers is going to pick up things in the second and third against an older Skelly, and we're going to see what I believe is not a finish. I think we're going to see a unanimous decision, maybe 29-28, and maybe Skelly steals the first round off a couple of takedowns because he is very good at grappling, but I think eventually the youth kicks in those later rounds, and Jamal Emmers is going to just start piecing him apart in the second and third round, landing 1-2s whenever he wants, landing the jab whenever he wants. He's got the reach advantage. I can see him just scooting around the outside in the second and third round and making it a real nice little clean technical show of striking against Skelly, and I feel like Skelly is going to be in there in the second and third round, sort of arguing as to why are you not getting in here and scrapping with me instead, why are you on the outside. I can just see Skelly sort of going out there and just kind of wanting Emmers to scrap with him and be in grappling range with him, but I think Emmers is just going to scoot around the outside and piece him up at range the entire fight long in the second and third round, and I see Skelly maybe stealing the first round with a couple of takedowns because he is a really strong guy, a surprisingly strong guy, and he's very dangerous on the ground. I just think Jamal Emmers pulls this one out in the second and third and schools Skelly on the feet, dancing around him with 1-2s. Moving on up the card, Shana Dobson versus Casey O'Neill. Right then, I see Casey O'Neill winning this one, but then again I thought Maria Agapova would win the last one against Shana Dobson. However, Casey O'Neill, very patient, trains with Luma Lookboom. I'm going to say that Casey O'Neill goes out there and just sort of picks her apart for 3 rounds. Shana Dobson's got some good takedowns. I can actually see many moments in the fight where Casey O'Neill reverses a couple of takedowns with submission attempts. She's got a nasty Kimura. Whenever someone goes for a takedown against her, she'll pull that Kimura. She's very flexible at the hip. She'll turn a Kimura into an armbar if she ends up on bottom. I can see Casey O'Neill threatening Shana Dobson for shooting takedowns on her in the first round, and then just slowly and methodically picking her apart on the feet to an uneventful 3-round decision. I see it going 30-27, Casey O'Neill just being good enough to reverse positions of takedowns with her own submissions, like a Kimura. I think we'll see that in this bout. She'll go for that Kimura whenever Shana Dobson tries to go for a takedown and maybe turn it into an armbar. I think she'll just be busy enough in the first round and then just school Shana Dobson in the second and third with a patient striking display where she barely edges out a close, competitive, unanimous decision. 30-27, Casey O'Neill gets it done, edging out Shana Dobson every single round. Moving on, Night the Train! Landwehr versus Julian Arosa. I'm looking forward to this one beyond belief, and I feel like Nate Landwehr's going to get a second round TKO here. I think Julian Arosa's really good. I like his pressure style. I feel like sometimes the pressure style is not going to work out because of the fact that he's been KO'd, I believe, like, what, 4 times in his career now. I think Nate Landwehr's going to land that big shot in the second round. A lot of people have this going to a decision. I think Nate Landwehr's going to catch him. I think you can't just cruise in and try and put pressure on Nate Landwehr. He's got nasty counters, he's got nasty elbows, and a lot of his shots are shots that are meeting people coming towards him. So I think it's going to be a scrappy first round. I think Julian Arosa is actually going to edge the first round, in my opinion. I think he's going to try shoot some takedowns. Darren Elkins had some success in that department. I think Julian Arosa goes out there, shoots some takedowns in the first, puts some pressure on Nate Landwehr, who's a little bit of a slow starter notoriously. A lot of his finishes come later in the fight, and I think Julian Arosa is going to maybe edge the first round off of pressure and volume and shooting some takedowns that maybe aren't too successful, but he's getting some takedowns even without control time. Then in the second round, Nate Landwehr is going to find his feet a little bit better and start cracking Julian Arosa coming in a little bit sloppy and put him down in the second round and finish it with... What's he going to finish it with? I think he's going to finish it with an elbow. I'll call an elbow finish. I don't mind. I called an elbow finish with Qatar, maybe. No, I didn't actually call it. Sorry, I didn't call an elbow finish. I called a second round TKO with Qatar. Getting ahead of myself here. But I feel like Nate Landwehr's going to catch him with an elbow coming in. I can see that. I can see Julian Arosa looking to throw shots and come underneath them with a takedown. And I think Nate Landwehr's going to meet him with an elbow, put him down on his back, and then follow up with ground and pound shots afterwards for a second round TKO for Nate the Train Landwehr. Elbow to drop him in the second round, then finishes him with ground and pound from like the back mount position or something like that. I think Nate Landwehr gets the job done by TKO in the second. Moving on, Eddie Wineland versus John Castaneda. Very interesting. I've got John Castaneda winning this one by unanimous decision. I don't see him finishing Eddie Wineland. Now, sometimes there is going to be a bit of a good bet to take there, but I just don't see John Castaneda getting it done. Didn't seem to have crazy power against Nathaniel Wood. Nothing that Nathaniel Wood had to respect. I think John Castaneda goes out there with Eddie Wineland, schools him around the outside, chops at the legs, and just is the more complete fighter at this point in his career. Eddie Wineland coming off a KO loss. I think he's not going to be as willing to go into those firefight exchanges, and I can just see John Castaneda scooting around the outside, outstriking him every single round. Eddie Wineland trying to get him trapped, and John Castaneda basically jabbing his face off for 3 rounds to a unanimous decision win. 30-27, John Castaneda jabs off the face of Eddie Wineland, and I see him just winning that way the entire time. I think this is going to be a little bit uneventful. I think Wineland's going to be swinging and missing quite a bit. I just don't feel like Wineland's going to be as willing to exchange in the pocket as he once was, and Castaneda's going to benefit from that by just jabbing him out from the outside, and I think Castaneda gets it done 30-27, unanimous decision. Moving on, Drakkar Klose versus Luis Pena. I was confirmed that Drakkar Klose would win. I now worry about this bet because Luis Pena is a middleweight, and I didn't realise that because he used to make featherweight. I don't understand how that works, but I feel like Drakkar Klose still wins this bout. I mean, Luis Pena's dangerous. I can see in the first round, maybe Luis Pena taking the back, looking for some rear naked choke attempts. I feel like he will have the back in the first round. I think he will go for those submissions, and I think Luis Pena will win the first round 10-9. But taking it on short notice and naturally slowing down anyway, I think Drakkar Klose cruises to a 29-28 second and third round win. chopping at the legs of Luis Pena, starting to stuff the takedowns, not giving up his back as much, and I can see him just really working on those legs of Luis Pena in the second and third round, even in the first round, but they'll start to take effect in the second and third, because when you've got a guy on short notice, I feel like Drakkar Klose is going to look to invest some shots early, to the body, to the legs. They'll start to take an effect in the second and third round, and I can see Drakkar Klose winning himself a 29-28 unanimous decision. It's always good to bet on Drakkar Klose by decision, because he barely ever finishes anyone in his entire career. I think he's going to win a 29-28 unanimous decision, landing good shots in the second and third, picking up the volume a little bit, but mainly it will be based around those leg kicks that I think he will land early and often in this bout. Moving on. Jared Gordon versus Danny Chavez is the headliner of the prelims. Crazy. I feel like Danny Chavez wins this one off of calf kicks. Again, another leg kick display from Danny Chavez. I think Jared Gordon's going to be a little bit too sloppy going for exchanges. I don't know what to call here. I think I'm going to go with a late rounds TKO for Danny Chavez. I think he will find the finish here with a full camp against Jared Gordon. I feel like he will start to work things together in the third round once he had Jared Gordon's calf hurt too much. I think Chavez is going to utilize those calf kicks perfectly that he used against TJ Brown, and Jared Gordon's going to lose some of that push on his takedowns to complete them, and I think Danny Chavez eventually starts to take over on a wobbly, limping around Jared Gordon in the bout, landing some good shots to the body. He's got great kicks, great hands. I think he's going to touch up Jared Gordon in the third round with a couple of good shots, and Gordon will go down in a similar fashion to the way he did against Joaquin Silva, but this time I think it will be a bit more of a brutal TKO. Chavez will be too much in the later rounds after he's finished chewing up the legs of Jared Gordon in the first few, and he will finish Jared Gordon in the third round. Moving on up the card to the main card, Andrei Arlovski versus Tom Aspanal is also on this card, and it's an amazing fight, I must say. I don't know why I'm saying Jared Gordon. Andrei Arlovski versus Tom Aspanal. Amazing. I think Tom Aspanal destroys him in the first round like it's nothing. And I like Andrei Arlovski. And I know that this is my prediction for every single Andrei Arlovski fight. I really understand that this is my prediction for literally every single Arlovski fight. But I feel like Aspinall's going to go out there. Arlovski's going to try and land something, and Aspinall's just going to catch him with a 1-2 down the pipe, rock him pretty badly, put him down, and finishes him off with ground and pound in the first round for a first round TKO. I think this is going to be one of the quicker fights on the card, and I do believe that Tom Aspanal goes out there, picks apart Andrei Arlovski on the feet, lands a couple of good leg kicks, which he has very underrated leg kicks. He used a couple of them and checked a couple of them as well in his former fights. I feel like Tom Aspinall's going to go out there, chop at the legs a couple of times of Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski's going to try and throw back after Aspinall's leg kick, and I think he's just going to be a little bit too fast and catch Arlovski with a 1-2 down the pipe that finishes him in the first round, then follows up with ground and pound. I think it's going to look very similar to Chad Mendes versus Conor McGregor if I had to paint a perfect image here. And I see a first round finish with Arlovski covering up like Mendes was, and Aspinall just finding those shots sort of behind the ear area on the ground, and I think he finishes it that way by TKO to ground and pound after dropping him with a 1-2. Aspinall gets the first round KO. Moving on up the card, Phil Hawes versus Nassourdine Imavov. I think Imavov's going to win by third round finish, and I think he's going to win it by third round. And I was undecided on this, but I think I'm going to go with submission. I don't see Phil Hawes being TKO'd. I think Imavov's going to land some good ground and pound shots. Then he's going to look to sink in that rear naked choke once Phil Hawes gives up his neck a little bit after taking those ground and pound blows. Phil Hawes is a tough guy. I just feel like he's going to get submitted in the later rounds here against Nassourdine. I can see a first round of Phil Hawes chasing down Imavov. Here's how I see the fight going. I think Phil Hawes is going to go out there, pressure Imavov, a lot of feints, a lot of sudden footwork, a lot of sporadic movements, just trying to usher him around. Imavov's going to be on the outside. Instead of shitting himself, like Jacob Malkoun did, I think Nassourdine Imavov is going to find the openings in Phil Hawes' exchanges while he's against the cage to clinch up with him, turn him around, push Phil Hawes against the cage, land those knees to the thigh, land some knees to the body, land some total strikes to the body against the cage. A very Usman-esque style for Nassourdine Imavov early in the bout. Well, you can't really say an Usman-esque style anymore, but I feel like Phil Hawes is going to be the Masvidal here, and Imavov's going to be the Usman, and I think he'll go out there and land those shots against the cage, wear down Phil Hawes with the over-under game, and just fighting for position against the cage. I think eventually that will start to favour Nassourdine Imavov, the less muscle-bound guy. Phil Hawes is known to slow down in his career, and I think Nassourdine Imavov picks it up in the second and third round, landing some good ground and pound in the third after winning the second round. So I think Phil Hawes is going to lose lose the first after some good exchanges by Imavov just controlling him and landing those shots against the cage. Then in the second round, I think Imavov's going to test himself out on the feet a little bit, land some good shots there, moving around the outside of Phil Hawes. Then in the third round, I think Imavov's going to start shooting some takedowns on Phil Hawes, getting those takedowns on Phil Hawes, settling on top with the back mount, landing some good ground and pound shots. Then eventually, Phil Hawes is going to give up that neck. Maybe a very Lyoto Machida versus Luke Rockhold-esque finish. You know what I'm saying here? I think Imavov's going to get it done like that. Land some good ground and pound. Hawes will give up his neck. And Imavov will sink in that rear naked choke for a third round submission win. Moving on, Alexei Oleinik versus Chris Daukaus. I see another quick finish here at heavyweight. I think Chris Daukaus is going to go out there, catch Oleinik in the first round real easily with some good combinations. I can see Oleinik sort of pressuring forward early to try and get in the face of Daukaus and sort of control him against the cage. And I think as he goes for a combination, it's just going to be the case that Daukaus is this much faster, this much more technical on the feet, and I think he'll catch Oleinik in a similar way that Draco Rodriguez catches Amian Zahabi with a two-punch combination. One shot lands, second shot lands behind it. Korean zombie Hanato Moicano-esque. I'm trying to find examples of previous fights to match all of my descriptions here. I think Daukaus is going to land a clean 1-2 after Oleinik sort of jutters in and doesn't commit to a shot fully on the feet. And I think Daukaus is going to find that counter without hesitation and land a two-punch combination that finishes Oleinik in the first round. Daukaus gets it done. I worry about the takedowns. I don't think there's going to be a chance that a takedown is shot. Oleinik technically doesn't really go for takedowns too early. Likes to sort of pressure guys on the feet a little bit first. I don't see Daukaus not KOing him in that first minute or two. And I'll call a first minute KO for Daukaus, landing a good combination, putting down Oleinik, and then finishing it off with ground and pound afterwards. Or maybe ushering Oleinik back up. Maybe that's what I see happening. Daukaus lands a good shot. Oleinik's not quite out of it. Oleinik goes to get back up. Daukaus sort of ushers him back up against the cage, much like he did against Rafael Pessoa in his last bout, and then lands those good shots. I think it was Nascimento Ferreira actually he did it too. I think he ushers Oleinik back up to the feet, lands a couple of good shots again. The referee steps in. Daukaus gets a first round TKO. Moving on up the card, Charles Rosa versus Darrick Minner. Decision for Rosa. In my opinion, there's some good odds on him by submission. I just don't see it happening with Darrick Minner. He's a veteran. I think Charles Rosa's going to go out there, land some good shots on the feet, land some good shots on the ground. It's not going to be the most entertaining fight in the world, much like Charles Rosa's bout with Kevin Aguilar. It was okay, it wasn't too action-packed, there were barely any big moments, but Charles Rosa showed that he's scrappy, and I think that will come into favour here in the later rounds in this bout, and as you can see, Charles Rosa winning the second two rounds of this bout to a 29-28 unanimous decision. Darrick Minner maybe comes out and sneaks the first round, being a scrappy guy and being up for it, landing some decent shots, but Charles Rosa's got a good chin on him, and I think he survives into the second and third where he wears down Darrick Minner, landing some good landing some good body kicks or shots. I mixed those two words together there. Landing some good body shots, landing some good kicks to the head as well. Something that Charles Rosa can do is land a lot of kicks because he doesn't worry about being taken down. I think that's going to favour him, and he'll win the second and third round in the striking exchanges on the feet to a 29-28 unanimous decision. Ketlen Vieira versus Yana Kunitskaya. I believe that Ketlen Vieira is going to go out there and win a decision. I don't see much else happening. Yana Kunitskaya is good at holding girls against a cage. That's what she spent a decade of her life training for. She holds girls against a cage, and she does quite well. Ketlen Vieira showed she can't be sort of done that to against Sarah McMahon. Got the submission there. I think she's just going to be able to reverse the position against the cage and land good shots on Yana Kunitskaya, covering up, coming in. I think Kunitskaya is going to do a lot of bobbing and weaving to find her way on the inside. Vieira is going to continue to find that 1-2 on the face, and Kunitskaya is just going to be caught going for the clinch against the cage, and Vieira is going to land that on her every single round to a 30-27 unanimous decision for Ketlen Vieira, just outlanding Yana Kunitskaya pretty much every single round, and Kunitskaya not really doing much of anything other than trying to hold her up against the cage, which is not going to get too many points, and I think Vieira just lands more significant strikes in each round, even while maybe losing some control time against the cage. I think she capitalizes on the stuff in between being controlled against the cage, and even shakes her off a couple of times and gets back to the center. Vieira wins. Kunitskaya is probably going to make it a close fight by holding her against the cage and landing some total strikes, but Vieira definitely gets this one done by unanimous decision. 30-27 to Ketlen Vieira gets it done. Moving on, Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis, the main event. I think Curtis Blaydes gets an under 2.5 rounds TKO, but you're not looking for what it is under and what it's over. I'm calling a second round TKO for Curtis Blaydes here. I think he's going to go out there. A lot of people are saying the decision bet's not bad. I think that Curtis Blaydes going to go out there, take down Derrick Lewis early, immediately into the bout, and just remind Derrick Lewis why he doesn't want to grapple with Curtis Blaydes. Land some good shots. I don't see Derrick Lewis giving up on the ground and getting a first round finish for Curtis Blaydes. I feel like Derrick Lewis is going to buck and weave and work his way back up maybe a couple of times, but Blaydes will stick to him, get the takedown again. He'll just work a wrestling clinic on Lewis, in my opinion. Lewis is going to be throwing hard, and I think Blaydes, first of all, before shooting a takedown, however, is going to go out there and back Lewis up with his hands, because Blaydes has got some really good stand-up. I think he uses the 1-2, uses his footwork, puts Lewis against the cage, normally where Lewis is dangerous if you're a striker. Lewis is going to throw a big shot back in the first round to try and catch Curtis Blaydes. Straight underneath that big shot for Curtis Blaydes, he'll get the double leg, get Lewis to the ground, work some ground and pound in the first round to the body maybe with some good shots, some elbows from side control to the body, some weird shots, but I think he's going to invest on the body of Derrick Lewis while he's got him grounded to try and stop that sort of late onslaught from Lewis once he gets some rest on his back. And I think in the second round, it's just going to be a case of Derrick Lewis laying back, trying to get his breather on his back like he did against Blagojevinov and Ilir Latifi. And I think Curtis Blaydes is going to land a crisp elbow in that moment where Lewis just isn't defending himself on the ground. He's laying on his back. He knows he's kind of too big to be manipulated into a submission finish, which we saw against Oleinik. And I feel like he's just going to lay back, try and get a breather. And Curtis Blaydes is going to quick time, boom, elbow straight on the face. Lewis covers over in the second round. Blaydes finishes it off with ground and pound TKO finish. And I think that Blaydes gets the job done in the second round by TKO, with a TKO finish, of course, with elbows to hammer fists afterwards on a covered up Derrick Lewis who rolls over. And I think that Curtis Blaydes gets this one done pretty impressively. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. These are my last minute detailed predictions. Toodle pip.